We are ready to assess the impact on agriculture of the US trade deals and yet the volatile markets in Chicago and improved weather in the United States. Jerry Gidel is ready to assess the markets right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So Jerry, we had a very choppy week, and we end up with some numbers going low this Friday. What do you think has impacted?
Well, this market this week was early in the week. We were looking at progress and things like that. But basically, since uh, started Monday of this week and actually could even Sunday in some places, the rain activity came through and kind of dampened the enthusiasm for planting out there. Geez, last week we were, thinking there's going to be over 80%. It came in 78. I would be real surprised on planting progress if we get, 7 to 10% here, because it really kind of had some shower activities across the Western Corn Belt and on through Illinois here, because it sat here and kind of spun on top of us. So I don't expect big numbers on the corn. Soybeans, the same situation. They were 66% last week. And I suspect that we're, 75 to 80. And to some extent, we've been running ahead. Now we're going to probably stay unchanged to behind on progress at this point. And I think that's going to continue to be a supportive factor in here as we go forward. But the ever-changing world of exports and news from Washington continues to make things quite interesting here in the agricultural world.
Yeah, so as we speak, on Friday, there was this threat by President Trump that a tariff of 50% would impact the European Union if no deal is done.
Yes, they actually put a pretty snappy deadline on that of June 1st, and that. And so, geez, we're only talking about 10 days away, type situation, or 7 to 10 days from there. And so, to some extent, uh, we we've got the UK agreement started, but then we've had some talks with India, we had talks with Japan, and he's kind of stalled those out. I don't know exactly, was that there hadn't been really a lot of information about the EU in general, which is overall that's a pretty complicated world over there with all the various things involved, and also the amount that he had projected for him was not heavy duty. I think it was 22 or 25%. So in essence, since uh, his communications with that organization was not going very fast, he's decided to throw up an interesting level out there. I don't know that that doesn't mean that things won't create a little more conversation between the two, but I'm not sure that anything's going to get uh, settled until we get to the 4th of July this year when the first 90-day scenario goes in. And, the same situation. Um, Even with China, their 90-day scenarios a couple weeks later than the rest of the world from that standpoint. But the interesting twist on here, we've continued to see some good purchases made from some of our regular buyers like Mexico and corn and other places in the soybean world and that. And so hopefully that these people get some of this moved before something happens middle of the summer. But in general, the interesting twist on this whole thing is that he loves the bluff, and to some extent, I think that's important to get people to pay attention, but at the same time, he also needs to do deals. He just doesn't need to continue to demand more and more things. That doesn't get what you need longer term. You need to get deals done and go on to the next one and that kind of stuff. So hopefully, we start to see some more progress from one of our standard buyers. I can't say Europe has ever been a huge buyer of U.S. corn or soybeans. They buy from Brazil. They end up on beans and on corn side of things. Spain buys a few things along the way, but I wouldn't say that Europe has been a big buyer of U.S. agricultural items. But it's a overall thing. Now we still got to deal with cars and everything else in this thing, so it makes it pretty complicated as we look forward into these U.S. prices as we go into June.
Yeah, and in South America, there wasn't any significant news when it comes to weather and the crops.
Yeah, there was stuff last weekend that had the big rains in Argentina, but other than that, no, there wasn't a lot in Brazil for sure from that standpoint, which I think is interesting. It really has not been the greatest May of moisture here for that second crop corn. We haven't really got into the harvest of that yet. It's primarily in Mato Grosso, Goiás, maybe parts of Mato Grosso del Sol. There has been a few rains in Rio Grande and parts of Paraná, but Paraná's the only one that has double crop corn, and the rest of it's already been impacted in Paraná. But Argentina, yeah, interesting world out there. I think there's only like less than 40% of their corn's been harvested. And there's some even talk about some issues of the rain damage in that corn. And the beans, it's a little higher. I think it's closer to 60 to 70% on the beans, but I I've heard numbers out here. It's anywhere from 300 to 400 milliliters. That's quite a total number out there in Buenos Aires. Must have been hitting right outside of town, so they all knew how much rain it was, all going down the river there in off the Paraná River. So definitely South America's issues, though, have been kind of on the back burner, even to some extent some of the dryness in the U.S. here in parts of western Kansas and also parts of Texas. Interesting in the wheat, and that's going to be our first kind of harvest in that has happened. There's lots of rumors and ideas floating around about disease issues or in wheat, it's more the excuse me, the leaf viruses and stuff like that that could damage some of the wheat and definitely western Kansas and parts of parts of Oklahoma. In the soft red areas, this cool wet weather, which we've been stuck in, as we both know, over this last week across the whole eastern U.S. That's not the kind of weather you want to keep the scab out of the world there, the wheat scab, which is a can be quite damaging to the wheat crop. Both of these, the soft red is late. It's about a month away, but we're talking 2 to 3 weeks away on Kansas. Both these crops are going to be highly important. And to some extent, that could be the set of things going into what might happen this summer. Wheat at this point is down against loan and everybody's just kind of hanging on. And I kind of tell people they probably should continue to hang on, considering that we don't know exactly what size of crop we've got coming in the wheat side of things at this point. Interestingly enough, some people I kind of suggested this week that maybe we should sell 10% of the beans just to get a little dollars in the pocket. End of May is always a time for a little choppiness in this market. Uh, it, in that, but the corn and wheat are at such values right now. I think it's time to sit back and see what happens with the U.S. Crop conditions going into at least the middle part of June.
Yeah, so next week we are going to have a shorter week, market week in the United States after the Memorial Day. What do you think is going to play out?
Well, I kind of feel like that. uh, the wheat and corn prices are just kind of keep slugging it out. There might, even if I was thinking that maybe this is yesterday, I kind of threw out the idea of selling another 5 or 7% of beans just to get some dollars in people's pockets and that. But in general, here, South American weather conditions, or excuse me, crop yield reports and things like that will be highly important. And also what might be happening uh, in the Black Sea. Over there, there's definitely some dryness in parts of Russia that could still be a factor on our output from them. But overall, this is going to be kind of a watching the weather in the U.S. And South America and what's happening in those two areas, and we'll see what we can get this thing to uh, give ourselves a little bit of a pop in here to see what happens. But it's going to be a kind of a tough slog in here, I suspect, just because the mindset is that we're still going to be dealing with all the Washington news.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take care, sir.